Welcome to today's explainer. Okay, I want you to picture this. You're standing at the absolute base of a towering mountain range, and you are completely enveloped in this thick, unyielding mist. The air around you is freezing, it feels ancient, and it's just perfectly still. Today, we're exploring a seriously mesmerizing piece of Nyishi folklore from Arunachal Pradesh. We are looking at the legend of the Mig-Mir. These are the enigmatic protectors of the sacred Lal Ane mountains. And this is a story that brilliantly weaves together the supernatural, the cosmos, and a really profound respect for the natural world.
Okay, let's dive right into this with a pretty massive question. What actually hides in the clouds of Lal Ane? Seriously, if you were to climb the treacherous fog-draped peaks of these mountains, what or who might you run into? It's a question that has literally captivated the Nyishi people for countless generations, and it serves as the foundation for an incredible oral tradition that we're going to unpack for you today.
Now, to truly get a grip on this, we have to transport ourselves back in time. Long ago, way before any paved roads carved their way through the stone, and before modern villages started sprawling across the valleys, the Nyishi ancestors lived in this profound intimacy with nature. In that era, isolation really meant connection. They didn't just view the landscape as, inanimate rock and wood. Instead, every single forest, every rushing river, every towering peak, and every deep lake was believed to be pulsing and completely alive with powerful spirits.
One of the most sacred, and frankly mysterious, locations in this ancient landscape was a remote alpine region known as Mire. This translates to the Lake of the Invisible People. Imagine trekking through these incredibly dense cliffside forests, and suddenly, you hear distant voices. But when you look around, you are completely alone. Travelers would constantly report the rhythmic sound of drums just echoing through the empty valley. They'd hear the unmistakable crunch of phantom footsteps following right behind them on the forest floor. And at night, strange, unexplained lights would silently glide across the surface of the sacred lake. And the wildest part is, whenever anyone searched for the source, they found absolute emptiness.
Well, the local elders, they knew exactly what these signs meant. These phenomena were the work of the Mig-Mir, who are sometimes called the Mire. These are the invisible people of Lal Ane. And according to the oral tradition, they didn't live down in the valleys with ordinary folks. Nope. Instead, they resided in a hidden kingdom far above the human settlements, tucked away beyond the highest, most inaccessible ridges of the mountains, completely and utterly concealed within the cloud.
So who exactly were these beings? Actually, they were pretty formidable. They looked human, sure, but they were significantly taller and had just immense physical strength. But their real power, that lay in the supernatural. The Mig-Mir could travel vast distances in the blink of an eye and just disappear instantly into thin air. They had this unique ability to communicate seamlessly with animals and the spirits of the land. And their architecture was just as wild. They lived in these hidden houses constructed from giant stones, built right into the mountain cliffs. What's really fascinating is that on crisp, clear mornings, local hunters claimed they could actually see these mirage-like villages on the distant slopes. But, and here's the catch, the moment a human tried to approach them, the entire settlement would vanish as if it were never even there.
Section 1. The Lost Hunter. Now, what's really interesting is how humans interacted with these beings, which we see in this traditional tale. It perfectly reveals the consequences of ignoring the customs of the forest. So, the story follows a young, pretty ambitious hunter. Step 1. He ventures deep into Lal Ane, chasing a rare mountain deer. But he ignores the proper prayers and permissions you're supposed to have before entering this sacred space, and as a direct result, he becomes completely lost in a thick, blinding white fog. Exhausted, starving, he just collapses. Then step 2. He wakes up, but not in the cold forest. He's inside a beautiful stone house, being nursed back to health by these strange beings with long hair and shining, luminous eyes. They feed him, they keep him warm. And finally, in step 3, after spending what he perceived to be just a few days with these mysterious hosts, they let him go, and he makes his way back down the mountain to his home village.
But here's the crazy twist. While the hunter experienced the passage of merely a few days in the realm of the Mig-Mir, a staggering amount of time had passed down in the human realm. He returns to find out that several years had actually gone by. His family and friends had long since mourned him, totally believing he had perished up in the mountains. For the elders of the Nyishi people, this incredible time dilation isn't just some fun fairy tale element. It's seen as direct evidence that the Mig-Mir exist on an entirely different plane of reality, where the very fabric of time just flows differently.
So the crucial point is the message he was told to bring back. Before the hunter was allowed to leave that stone house, the shining-eyed beings gave him this warning for his people. Humans must respect the mountains. These forests do not belong to people alone. This isn't just a casual warning, guys. This is literally the fundamental core of the entire folklore. The Mig-Mir were letting humanity know, in no uncertain terms, that we are merely guests in the natural world, not its owners.
Section 2. The Sun Dragon.
Okay, so the Mig-Mir weren't just protecting the local woods. Their power actually extended to the cosmos itself. While the story of the Lost Hunter is this really intimate tale of survival, the legend of Martung Tom is a massive, apocalyptic epic. Martung Tom was a terrible, unimaginably powerful dragon spirit. And according to the legend, this dragon was so mighty that it actually swallowed the sun whole. I mean, the stakes here were absolute. The world was instantly plunged into freezing darkness. Without the sun, crops began to fail, animals grew totally confused and panicked, and people were terrified that all life was literally coming to an end.
To save the world, the invisible people had to step in, leading to this epic cosmic battle. Here's how it went down. On day 1, the catastrophe strikes. Martung Tam swallows the sun. By day 2, the devastating effects of total darkness fully grip the earth. The Mig-Mir realize humanity cannot fight this threat on their own, so they gather on the absolute highest peak of Lal Ane. We jump to day 5, where their greatest warrior, armed with a magical bow, undergoes intense days of spiritual prayer and preparation. On day 6, the warrior finally draws his bow and releases a brilliantly enchanted arrow straight into the dark sky. And on day 7, that arrow strikes true. It pierces the dragon's heart. Martung Tam cries out in agony, releases the sun back into the sky, and light finally returns to the world. What's super fascinating here is that anthropologists and historians note this epic story was actually the traditional Nyishi way of accounting for terrifying celestial events, like total solar eclipses, while firmly establishing the Mig-Mir as the ultimate cosmic protectors.
Section 3. Guardians of Nature. It's pretty clear that whether we're dealing with a lost hunter or a literal sun-eating dragon, the core theme remains exactly the same. The folklore of the Mig-Mir essentially acted as an indigenous, legal, and ecological framework. Think of the Mig-Mir as omnipresent game wardens. They noticed every single tree that was cut down without the proper spiritual permission. They kept a watchful eye for unnecessary or wasteful hunting. Any act of disrespect toward nature was logged and severely punished by these invisible guardians. If a hunter was greedy or arrogant, the Mig-Mir would actively confuse their paths, trapping them in dense fog as a strict warning. It was this belief system that ensured humans maintained a really delicate, sustainable balance with the environment around them.
Let's move ahead and see how this builds into our reality, because understanding this framework completely shifts our view of the modern landscape. Back in ancient times, there was occasional, albeit very cautious, interaction between humans and the Mig-Mir. But look at what happens in modern times. As human settlements inevitably expanded, as roads were built and ancient forests were disturbed, the Mig-Mir retreated. The elders explain that they withdrew deeper into the most inaccessible, hidden valleys. Or perhaps they transcended entirely to become pure spirits, protecting the landscape from another realm altogether. The implication here is pretty profound. Humanity's physical encroachment actively pushed the magic and the guardians away.
And this brilliantly illustrates why this piece of oral history is just so much more than a spooky ghost story. The legend of the Mig-Mir is a timeless conservation message passed down through generations. Its teachings are incredibly practical for all of us. Respect nature and recognize its limits, protect the forests and the wildlife within them, avoid greed and the needless waste of natural resources, honor places that are sacred and untouched. Ultimately, the goal is to maintain absolute harmony with the environment. For the Nyishi people, the Mig-Mir are this constant, powerful reminder that the natural world is alive, aware, and deeply deserving of our reverence.
Which leaves us with one final, lingering thought to ponder. Even today, as modern life just continues to accelerate, when dark clouds gather heavily over the peaks of Lal Ane, and those strange, unexplained echoes drift down through the isolated valleys, are the invisible guardians still out there? Well, some elders firmly believe they are, watching silently from their hidden kingdom beyond the mist, continuing to protect the sacred mountains of Arunachal Pradesh, just as they have done for countless generations. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and honestly, I hope you never look at a foggy mountain peak exactly the same way again.